Audio is live in the boardroom.
20 years ago. That's the way it is. If I don't say it, somebody else. Who else can say it but me?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Thanks. I didn't know.
It's in the remarks, but just saying, you know,
Okay.
I think explained it to me this morning.
Okay, thanks.
2 minutes ago, I didn't ask one of our neighbors. How stupid can they be?
And he said, but you don't have to worry about the fact that you're in 2011 Wrangler. No one's going to carjack you. No one will be like, go ahead, show me how you're going to get away.
You don't follow it. Should I? Who says it? I can find it.
I wish you could see that video.
It is, that's it. At least it was. But you can't say anything in public. Everybody on the board knows what you do.
A lot of those houses.
It's to raise somebody's awareness.
90s, city. Well, that was back in the 80s. Yes, that was right. Because in South Philly, they tend, if the house is still has any chance of staying, and in some cases, they'll turn them into 2 stories.
Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm going to ask, do you want the truth? You want me to walk through it?
The truth? Okay. There's another one that has
Do they all know how to get to the agenda?
Thanks. Okay. Good morning. No, I'm fine. Somebody's just giving me a bottle of water. Thanks so much. I'm just glad I made it on time.
Yes. Oh, you did good time-wise.
Yes.
Okay, great. There was no... No, I want my phone in case she responds. No. She hasn't. I put everything in Oh, okay. No, no. Am I coming in before? Nah. Yeah. Listen, we did it back and completely understand. Oh, no. No, listen, the reason why I wanted to sit here is because we were talking about oh, yes, hi, I'm in a meeting. Hi, tomorrow. Are we meeting at 1 or 11? At 10? Well, I don't know what they need to see for us. And believe me, I can't talk now because I'm in a meeting. No, but I'm hoping that they can move it to 1. I'm gonna keep checking my emails. All right? No, they wanted to ponder if they were anything. On everything. Just a million dollars.
How come we get you? They're gonna get cleared up. There's not, especially if there's not a requirement that you're gonna sort of compensate. What'd you do with your shit?
Yeah, awesome, thanks. Oh, well, what about, is it okay if I sneak inside? Oh, wait, this is conversations. Yes.
There you go. It works. It did actually end up working. It works. Right, maximum.
Discussion regarding we're at.
You lost your ass.
he at every, Joe, is he at every public thing I go to?
It seems like it.
You keep getting invited. My way.
So when the cards stop coming in the mail, it'll stop.
I come from the south.
Or the paycheck.
Now we're in County, so. Yeah, up a little bit. Yeah, there was a truck stopped on 21 this morning. Is this a 15 minutes. I'm like, oh. But I left plenty of time. But, you know,
That looks like a coffee. That's where I got my
I like
When somebody just died, you know, I got doesn't do anything.
I'm glad I said it.
Oh, around the system. Yeah, no, but, I mean, I know anything you're saying. We're having
Reverend Preston. I said I drove, I should have taken the train.
You know, 6614 was right on time. But the bus apps weren't good. I got the 72 bus right over. I don't know. Yeah, a lot of kids. Well, that's the way they get their response, right? That's why they have
Yes, we do.
very nice.
Yes, we need some of those.
Oh, yeah. My wife's putting pressure on, you know, we have 3 kids, so 20, and some of the things I enjoy like is in practice. I was like, one of the sons, they're all doing wildlife, pork which lines go, like, just where the frame is, like a leaf oil over.
Good morning. I hereby call to order the Board of Directors meetings of New Jersey Transit Corporation, New Jersey Transit Rail Operations, Inc., New Jersey Transit Bus Operations, Inc., New Jersey Transit Mercer, Inc., and New Jersey Transit Morris, Inc.
Good morning. Please mute your phones and turn your attention to the public safety announcement.
Your safety is our highest priority. Please listen to these safety instructions in case of an emergency. In an emergency, announcements will be made over the loudspeaker or by a uniformed police officer. The primary exit for this location is the stairwell adjacent to the elevators, which can be located by exiting the boardroom and proceeding through the glass doors. There is a second alternate staircase that can be accessed through the door at the front of this room to the right behind the board dais. New Jersey Transit Police will administer CPR and use the defibrillator located near the elevator if necessary. Fire extinguishers are located in the front and back of this room. Please be guided by the directions of the New Jersey Transit Police and staff. As a reminder, members of the public are not permitted to approach the dais. and should only share board meeting materials with New Jersey Transit staff at the reception desk. Thank you and have a safe day.
At this time, I would ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will now take roll call. Board Member Brown?
Here.
Board Member Doshi?
Here.
Board Member Morocco?
Here.
Board Member Nara?
Here.
Board Member Thomas?
Here.
Board Member Caniff?
Here.
Board Member Johnson?
Here.
Vice Chair Fulton?
Here.
Chair Gutierrez-Scacchetti?
Here.
For the record, Board Member Doshi is participating remotely. Board Member Gordon is having a little technical difficulties, so he will be joining us shortly. And Board Member Adams is absent. This is a meeting of the New Jersey Transit Corporation and its affiliates and subsidiaries. Adequate notice was provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act and NJ Transit's enabling legislation. Notice was filed on June 2nd, 2022 with the Secretary of State and sent to newspapers of general distribution, posted in the main entrance of NJ Transit's headquarters, published on the corporation's website, and sent to each individual, agency, and organization that requested such notice.
Thank you, Megan. May I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the May 11th, 2022 board meetings?
Motion, Nara?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Megan, please take a roll call vote.
Roll call vote. Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Morocco?
Yes.
Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Keenan?
Yes.
Board Member Johnson?
Please note my abstention.
Noted. Vice Chair Fulton?
Yes.
Chair Gutierrez-Scacchetti?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. At this time, I would ask President and CEO Corbett to present his monthly report.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Chair and members of the board, and good morning to all the members of the public joining us here in present or online. I'll begin this month again with our ridership statistics, which is increasing on rail on the weekends and holding steady in all other respects. Weekday rail ridership is approximately 55% of pre-COVID levels, while average rail ridership on weekends has increased from 70 to 80% to approximately 80 to 90%, with some trains at 100%. For 6 out of the last 9 weeks, rail ridership on Saturdays has reached or exceeded 85% of pre-COVID levels. System-wide bus ridership overall is approximately 70% of pre-COVID level, with interstate ridership into New York at approximately 65% and intrastate ridership at approximately 75%. Light rail ridership is once again at approximately 75% of pre-COVID levels. As we move now into the second week of June, as we see more people coming out post-COVID, I want to remind everyone that June is National Safety Month. While safety is a year-round priority, National Safety Month provides NJ Transit with a perfect opportunity to recommit ourselves to creating the safest possible travel environment for customers and employees. Towards that end, this month, NJ Transit launched an educational safety campaign for customers and employees with a theme, Alert Today, Alive Tomorrow. This theme will be featured throughout the month on or near New Jersey Transit Network, along with messaging that reinforces safety. We will also be reinforcing safety strategies and re-educating employees, customers, motorists, and others of safety protocols and risky behavior by providing safety tips that will be displayed publicly at internal employee locations throughout the state. New Jersey Transit Police, the Office of Safety Systems employees, and members of the customer experience team will be interacting with customers through various safety events to remind the public of the importance of safety protocols when at transit stations or using public transit. In addition to National Safety Month, June is also Pride Month, and to celebrate the LGBTQ+ community, NJ Transit is unveiling 2 wrapped buses and a soon-to-be wrapped locomotive. The bus and locomotive wraps were made possible through the generous sponsorship of Hackensack Meridian Health. The wrapped buses will be seen operating along routes throughout New Jersey during the month, and the wrapped locomotive will be introduced into revenue service later this month.
We're also continuing our focus on another important community, those with accessibility challenges. Building on last month's report regarding 2 new tech-focused accessibility initiatives, Magnus Mode and our accessibility web page upgrade, next week on June 14th, NJ Transit will host its first ever accessibility forum. The forum is fully aligned with one of the 5 overarching goals of our 10-year strategic plan, NJT 2030, to power a stronger and fair economy for all communities in the region. Representatives from throughout the company will give presentations on accessibility initiatives within their respective areas, sharing the many services and features that help make our system as accessible and inclusive as possible. Presentations will be followed by an opportunity for members of the public to make comments, offer feedback, and ask questions related to our accessible services. To register, please visit njtransit.com/accessibilityforum.com. On the heels of our successful Spring Fling promotional campaign, NJ Transit has introduced yet another promotion to help attract customers back to public transit. We want our customers to make NJ Transit your ride to summer vibes. Beginning on June 1st and running through September 4th, new and returning customers can save on summer travel by using various promotional codes in the NJ Transit mobile app, including beach excursion fare discounts for low-cost round-trip weekday tickets to some of New Jersey's most popular shore destinations. In addition, on May 28th, NJ Transit resumed service to Six Flags Great Adventure from the Port Authority Bus Terminal via the number 308 Express Bus and is offering some great discounts to packages to the park as well. Overall, there are deals and discounts for everyone, so for more information, please visit njtransit.com/summer. Speaking of summer, although football season is still 3 months away, and I know some people can't wait for that, but MetLife has kicked off its summer concert series, and thanks to our full roster of locomotive engineers, NJ Transit is able to seamlessly add service to and from MetLife Stadium to accommodate 5 major concerts this month. Last Saturday and Sunday, we provided rail transportation to and from the stadium for a pair of Coldplay concerts. We appreciate the fact that, as part of Coldplay's commitment to sustainability, the band actively encourages fans to use NJ Transit through its social media channels. This effort helped maximize NJ Transit ridership to the stadium and lowered carbon emissions. I might add, with NJ Transit successfully moving more than 5,000 customers to the stadium each day, and approximately 10,000 customers from the stadium following the concert each day. And so we are prepared also for a service plan to get customers conveniently to and from the stadium for the Hot 97 Summer Jam on June 12th, the Paul McCartney concert on June 16th, and the Grupo Therme concert on June 18th. Moving to infrastructure updates, today NJ Transit will seek board authorization to award a professional service contract that will provide staff augmentation to support Phase 2 of our vital State of Good Repair program, a critical component in continuing to provide safe, comfortable, and reliable service to our customers. Aligned with this item, NJ Transit continues to progress with the procurement steps for a job order contract and construction model that will enable us to better and more aggressively attack State of Good Repair projects in the future. Continuing with infrastructure, NJ Transit is also aggressively pursuing new FTA grant opportunities now available through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Over the past month, NJ Transit has submitted multiple applications for hundreds of millions of dollars in grant funding that would support our stations and extensive system-wide State of Good Repair program, the Hudson-Bergen Light Rail expansion projects, low and no emission buses, and the upgrading and modernization of our bus facilities to include the necessary charging infrastructure to support a 100% zero-emission bus fleet, as well as working with our project partners at Amtrak, Port Authority, and Gateway Development Commission to continue advancing the Hudson Tunnel project. To be sure, this is a very competitive space that includes hundreds of transit agencies throughout the country, and we will, of course, keep the board and the public apprised of any feedback received regarding our applications. Moving on to active NJ Transit infrastructure projects, we're nearing completion construction milestones on 2 significant capital projects. At our long slip project in Hoboken, we have now completely filled the full length of the canal using more than 60,000 cubic feet of fill to eliminate it as a conduit for floodwater. The first phase of this project is now 80% complete, with the expected completion date of June 25th, 2023. We are now preparing for the second phase of construction, which includes 3 ADA accessible platforms to support 6 new tracks and other amenities. We plan to advertise the construction of Phase 2 in the 4th quarter of this year. At Elizabeth Station, we have some good news for customers on the progress of that project. We are planning to open most of Elizabeth Station's Track 4 side this summer, which includes 700 feet of high-level platform. Customers will be able to access this track by new stairways and a new elevator, significantly improving accessibility for customers with mobility challenges. The platform fencing and new elevator tower also include some great-looking artwork. We expect construction of the full station to be completed by the summer of 2023. Moving on to technology, many of you will remember that 2 years ago, NJ Transit became the first transit agency in the nation to receive a prestigious cybersecurity certification from the International Organization for Standardization, or ISO. Last year, the ISO recertified NJ Transit, and today, building on our efforts to stay ahead of evolving cybersecurity threats, the board will vote to authorize the renewal of software licenses that will better protect our network from ransomware attacks. As technology is integrated more and more into our equipment, infrastructure, capital projects, and software applications, it is essential that we take all proactive steps necessary to protect all our corporate data. Continuing with technology, we have introduced a new customer experience enhancement that is part of our popular How Full Is My Ride mobile app feature, which allows customers to see how full their bus or train is before they board so they can make more informed travel decisions. Last month, in response to customer feedback, this new feature answers the age-old question, where is the restroom on this train? Customers can now easily find not only their train car number, with green, yellow, and red graphics donating light, medium, or heavy ridership, they can now also easily see where the restrooms are located on the train in relation to their own car. What may seem like a small technology enhancement will provide a meaningful improvement in the travel experience for all our rail customers who use the system every day. And thanks to our Chief Information and Digital Officer, Lukman Fazal, and his team for the work they've done on the app upgrade. To wrap up today, I'm pleased to note that last month I proudly joined Chief Trissillo at the New Jersey Transit Police Department's awards ceremony, the first one in 3 years after the 2020 and 2021 ceremonies were sidelined due to the COVID-19 pandemic. It was good to be back in person to participate at this annual event, where we were able to recognize so many selfless acts of heroism that literally saved so many lives over the last 3 years. And it was also my pleasure to recognize those officers who deservedly earned promotions over the last 3 years. Speaking of which, I'm very pleased to recognize NJTPD award ceremony recipient who is here with us today, Officer Angelo Saletti, who has recently received the 200 Club of Hudson County's Valor Award. During a winter patrol on Hoboken Terminal in 2019, Officer Saletti observed a man who had entered the freezing Hudson River, and with no regard for his own life, he dove into the frigid Hudson River in an attempt to rescue the man. Although the man ultimately succumbed to exposure, Officer Saletti survived, and they were both lifted from the water. Further investigation revealed that the man unfortunately intended to take his own life. Officer, your actions on that winter day exemplify the core values at New Jersey Transit Police Department, of the New Jersey Transit Police Department: honor, commitment, integrity, and courage. Thank you for your bravery and for the work you do every day to keep our customers safe and secure. May I have a warm round of applause for Angelo? That's great. Thanks so much. Thank you for your service. Finally, I'm pleased to share that NJ Transit has been awarded a prestigious 2022 Silver Telly Award for our While You've Been Away public information video, available at njtransit.com/progress. The video was created to share all the ways in which NJ Transit worked to improve safety, service, and the customer experience throughout the pandemic while our customers were away, and to let them know we were and are ready for the return. Receiving over 12,000 entries from all 50 states and 5 continents, Telly Award winners represent work from some of the most respected advertising agencies, television stations, production companies, and publishers in the world. Kudos to Senior Vice President of Communication and Customer Experience, Anthony Greco, along with our Chief Marketing Officer, Vaughn Williams, Creative Service Officer, Jeff Antman, for directing the video, and our entire comms team for their contributions. And with that, Chair, I conclude my remarks.
Thank you very much, Kevin. At this time, we will move on to public comment. Are there any comments from the public?
There are 3 in-person speakers and 7 pre-registered telephone speakers. Speakers, in order to give everyone an opportunity to be heard, comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Priority access will be given to pre-registered in-person participants, followed by any additional in-person speakers. We will then take comments from pre-registered telephone participants, followed by any additional telephone participants who are queued to speak. Those participating by telephone If you have not already done so, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad to enter the queue to speak. You will hear a brief tone to indicate you have successfully entered the queue. The first speaker is Murray Bowden.
My name is Murray Bowden. I represent concerned grandparents. Those we're concerned about the environment we leave to our grandchildren. Everything I say is under the, I can't find the words anymore, global warming. There is nothing else except global warming that has to be addressed. I'm a lip reader. I have hearing aids, but if you want me to understand the meaning of your words, I need to see your lips. When I started to say this, I discovered there are many other people who cannot understand unless they see your lips. You have on a book, say, 500 bus garage, which should never be built. That was for a generation that doesn't exist anymore. Global warming, you need to have a garage where you repair buses, clean them, test them, but you don't have to store buses underneath a garage roof and heat it and everything else that goes with it and construct it. That defeats global warming. I'm here because I need to see you in person. I need to see your expression. I need to get a personal contact is very important. And Zoom worked when we had it, but not anymore. I've raised the issue of railroad crossing lights many, many times. People are distracted drivers today. They are not paying attention. When they look up, red flashing lights were there hundreds of years ago when they just started lights. Now everybody has traffic lights with a gate. Why don't you have it there? Well, we've always had it that way. Can't be. Global warming means we can't have it the way we always had it. We need to change. When somebody who is distracted driver looks up, they need to see one thing, the traffic light. When you come to a railroad crossing, the gate comes down. Put a camera up there. They don't have to blow the train horn half a mile down the road. You put a little siren right at the gate so you know that warn the people at the gate. The train horn blowing down the road, that happened years and years ago. Let's see. Diane, I compliment you on speaking to Kevin by his first name. I think you all should address everybody by first name. It's not disrespectful. You all know each other, but it changes the context of the meeting. We're all friendly. That's the end of it? I've said it all. I'm leaving today because you've heard what I had to say, and I can't affect everything else. Cedric, I wanted to know how long I know you. We'll talk another time. Thank you all.
Thank you. I just want to note for the record that Board Member Gordon has joined the meeting remotely. The next speaker is Paula Rogovin, followed by Sid Madison.
Good morning. The New Jersey Transit Board members have told us that you can't comment about the RFP for the transit grid. The RFP for providing power during an emergency. So I'm hoping that Governor Murphy's representative here on the Transit Board will please relay my message to the governor. I plead with you to tell Governor Murphy that New Jersey Transit's RFP is out of step with the environmental justice law he signed. It is a disgrace that New Jersey Transit has chosen to ignore his 2020 directive to pivot from a polluting toxic gas plant to a renewable energy solution. The renewable energy solution would be free of pollution and would serve to protect the health of people in nearby environmental justice communities and the health of all people. Please tell the governor that we insist that New Jersey Transit amend the RFP so that the focus is on creating a real hybrid renewable energy solution. We have explained over and over that the pollution from a gas plant, one that is designed not just to provide power during an emergency, but one that would provide power 24/7 to Amtrak, is a clear violation of the spirit of the environmental justice law he signed. To add yet another source of deadly pollution would be illegal, unjust, and immoral. It's called environmental racism. We want environmental justice. We want to remind him also that the PVSC gas plant must be replaced by a renewable energy solution. I brought these shirts that were made by a friend of mine. These are children's shirts. No toxic gas plant. And they're children's shirts for a reason. To remind the governor, to remind everyone, all board members, all people seeing this meeting, that the impact of the pollution from a gas plant, a New Jersey Transit gas plant, would hit young children so hard. There's already a high rate of asthma. There's already a high rate for parents of stillbirths, of miscarriages. There's a high rate of learning disabilities, all from the pollution. So we urge you to relay this message to Governor Murphy. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Sid Madison, followed by the telephone speakers.
Good morning, Sid Madison from Piscataway. I agree with my fellow activists that New Jersey Transit needs to have a facility that is mostly, if not completely, of renewable energy. But first, some perspective. From Kyoto to the present, we have made little progress based on the fact that greenhouse gas emissions are higher today than they were 25 years ago. The political goal of holding warming to 1.5 degrees is termed aspirational, with 2.0 being the stated goal. From a science standpoint, any increase in the global temperature will cause increasing damage. The difference between 1.5 degrees and 2 degrees is basically a disaster. And 19% of the CO2 that we put in the atmosphere will be there 1,000 years from today, making the disaster last from hundreds to thousands of years. Into this picture, insert the goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions by at least 50% by 2030 by both Biden and Murphy. And in both cases, almost no substantial means of achieving that goal. My conclusion, we have a patient bleeding out. Achieving just the New Jersey Transit goal that many of us come to these meetings to achieve is putting a Band-Aid on the patient when a tourniquet is needed. My request of you is for you to ask Governor Murphy to immediately enact a moratorium on fossil fuel infrastructure projects in New Jersey. The tourniquet. That would stop private companies that can get a 14% return on investment projects. They only want profit. They are not concerned with our 2030 goals. Allowing more fossil fuel infrastructure, i.e. without having the tourniquet, will have the following bad, very bad climate, environmental, and ratepayer results. Make the climate goal of 50% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 even more difficult to reach. At a minimum, the environmental impact would add to our already poor ground level pollution, thus increasing health problems for New Jersey residents. For ratepayers, there would be 4 additional costs. an immediate increase in the cost to pay for additional not needed facilities. The BPU commissioned a study reported in December 2021 that no more fossil fuel infrastructure was needed. Additional cost increases over time because of operating cost of fossil fuel facilities will increase while renewable energy facilities would not. Costs, I have just a few more points. Costs will increase again to shut down the plants. The wasted capital on fossil fuel infrastructure will increase the capital for renewable energy systems. The tourniquet is to request of Governor Murphy to put a moratorium on fossil fuel facilities. You are a public institution. You can have a transformative impact. Your grandchildren and all children will thank you for this transformative act. Ask Governor Murphy.
Thank you. Next, I have the telephone speakers. Operator, we would now like to open the floor for public comments by telephone participants, beginning with those who pre-registered to speak.
As a reminder, if you have not already done so, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad to enter the queue to speak. You will hear a brief tone to indicate you have successfully entered the queue. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes for their public comment. A warning will be provided with 1 minute remaining, and again with 15 seconds remaining. There are 11 public speakers in queue. The first speaker will be Sally Jane Gellert. Sally, your line is live and your time will now begin.
Thank you. Sally Jane Gellert, Chairperson, Lackawanna Coalition. We recently passed resolutions supporting mask mandatory cars on all or most New Jersey Transit trains and calling for passing sightings on the Gladstone and Pascack Valley lines, which I will excerpt. First, whereas riders have been advocating for designated masked cars on NJ Transit trains in order to provide a safer and more comfortable environment for those at risk of or with reasonable concerns about COVID-19, and this would be a zero-cost ADA-type accommodation for individuals susceptible to SARS-CoV-2. During recent meetings of the New Jersey Transit Board and committees, certain board members have expressed interest in having staff investigate the designation of masked cars and the implementation of a pilot program. And enforcement of a masked car would be much less contentious than that of the previous mask mandate, as people who wish to remain unmasked are likely to be willing to move to the next car and have the majority of the train available. Therefore, we resolve to support the riders and join the call for implementation of a masked car pilot project in all or most New Jersey Transit trains, especially where lower ridership currently leaves one or more cars unoccupied on a routine basis. Also, we passed 2 resolutions on passing sightings. First, on the Gladstone line, whereas the entire length of the line is single track with 4 operational passing sidings, and the Gladstone schedule depends on schedules for trains on the Morris and Essex lines, which themselves depend on Amtrak-controlled scheduling, limiting the number of trains that can run on the line, reducing flexibility in scheduling, and likely the cause of the current lack of outbound service early in the day, as well as a gap of nearly 4 hours in inbound service, 5 from Gladstone, from late afternoon till mid-evening, and there are currently 3 formerly used passing sidings on the Gladstone line that could be restored to service at Berkeley Heights, Lyons, and Millington. And from March until June 2020, we saw that operating hourly service throughout the day, as is done on weekends, is feasible. Therefore, it is hereby resolved that the Lackawanna Coalition calls for the restoration or construction of passing sidings on the Gladstone line at the mentioned locations and any other place where such would be feasible. For the Pascack Valley line, whereas in 2004, the Board of New Jersey Transit decided to improve service by installing 5 controlled sidings, and whereas representatives of certain communities along the line opposed the installation of these controlled sidings, and whereas New Jersey Transit's settlement with these communities provided that only 3 sidings would be built, permitting the resumption of off-peak weekday and weekend service, but not sufficient to permit hourly off-peak or reverse peak service. And whereas there is reason to believe that the residents of the Pascack Valley communities that initially imposed the installation of sidings now realize their opposition was misplaced, based as it was on a flawed
15 seconds remaining.
Expectation of long freight trains. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Lackawanna Coalition urges New Jersey Transit to move ahead as soon as possible with the installation of the 2 missing sidings so as to permit it to operate hourly off-peak service and reverse peak service on the line. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And the next public comment is coming from Samantha DeFalco. Samantha, your line is live and your time will now begin.
Hi, good morning. My name is Sam DeFalco, and I'm an organizer with the group Food and Water Watch, speaking today on behalf of our 70,000 members and supporters across New Jersey. And I'd like to address my comments today to the governor's representative at this meeting, Joy Michelle Johnson. I'm asking you to talk to Governor Murphy about the transit grid project in light of the environmental justice draft laws that were passed or that were released earlier this week. It's very clear that any path forward for New Jersey Transit with the transit grid project cannot include a gas-fired power plant in Kearney. This is out of step with the environmental justice law he signed and other environmental justice commitments he's made while he's in office. And it's really a disgrace that New Jersey Transit has chosen to ignore this directive from him that came in 2020 after 2 years of activism and opposition to this project from residents across New Jersey. So we ask that you to ensure that this project is done the right way and in a way that will prioritize environmental justice and our climate. Ask the governor to have New Jersey Transit amend the RFP today so that this project can be done the right way and we don't find ourselves in a situation late this year when the RFPs are due where
1 minute remaining.
We will, have to go back to the drawing board after spending months and lots of money having this project designed now, rather than doing that, have the opportunity for the RFP to be revised so that we can do this the right way in a way that prioritizes environmental justice, clean energy, and our climate. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next public comment is coming from Jeff Rappaport. Jeff, your line is live and your time will now begin.
Hello, thank you for having me speak today. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead, sir.
Our position is clear. We continually push to encourage renewable energy and no gas-fired power plants to be put in. I'm not confident that we're leading in that direction. I hope we are. With this proposed plan, there are currently 7 pipelines and power plants on the table. And looking at Governor Murphy's 50-30 plan, how can the construction of new gas infrastructure be justified? I wish to ask one question. What is Governor Murphy's plan to implement 50-30? What are the pluses and minuses? We need you. We really need you. We need you to show how you will bring about 50-30. We need you to speak with us. We need you. Where are you? We need you to be available. We need you to incorporate the EG component now. We need you to work with all the departments in the state to encourage them and push them to be on board. New Jersey Transit, PBSC, New Jersey Department, DEP, the Board of Public Utilities, and you know them better than I do. We need a plan. How can we have DEP plans, BPU, all etc., moving in different directions? It makes things very difficult. I met you about 4 years ago, Governor Murphy. You were swearing in new council members. You were upset over a previous council where you felt insulted.
1 minute remaining.
We spoke respectfully about how you were concerned for your family on climate change. I believed you. We spoke for 5 minutes. and then again afterwards. The conflict with powerful political forces must be overwhelming. However, the future of young people is more than overwhelming. Please talk to us. How can we help? I want to come with arms wide open and encourage you to come to us. Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you. And the next public speaker will be Ken Dolsky. Ken, your line is live and your time will now begin.
Good morning, Ken Dolsky from Don't Gas the Meadowlands Coalition. I'd like to comment on the state of communications from transit throughout this transit grid project. Our coalition has sent this board and transit management at least 4 major letters analyzing and discussing the most important issues on this project with no responses whatsoever from transit. In January 2020, we sent you an inventory and location of potential space for solar panels. We followed up several times asking for a meeting, no reply. In July of 2020, we sent you a 26-page letter refuting your assertions in Appendix D of the FEIS that renewable energy was not appropriate. We also included a high-level quantification of the key capacities needed for a hybrid microgrid, including our estimate of space for solar, far less than you think is needed. We destroyed every transit argument in your document, and the result was deafening silence from transit. In March of this year, we sent you a 12-page letter with our analysis of the problems and issues with the recent RFP. We did not even receive an acknowledgement that you received it. In May of this year, we sent you a 9-page letter in response to the less than compelling comments made by board members at the previous board meeting. Even though we demonstrated the weaknesses and in some cases the absurdity of your statements, there was no response. To say we never received responses from transit would not be fair. You have responded during board meetings, and we have had conversations during the Energy and Sustainability Stakeholder Committee meetings. However, transit's responses in these meetings are consistently a combination of unsupported statements and word salads, such as, things keep changing, we don't want to dictate to the market, which is of course exactly what you've done, that you're not interested in panaceas, that you're looking for a transition, and why don't you ask us about bus electrification? These conversations have been less than satisfactory, to say the least, but transit board members describe these as great dialogues. One board member did actually agree to meet with us to discuss the March 13th letter, but then canceled after speaking to a transit attorney. We really want to respect you, and we really want to have confidence in you that you're going to do the right thing, but you make it very, very, very difficult for us to have those feelings towards you. This brings me to my comment on the transit strategy of hiding behind the procurement process. During my business career, I worked for AT&T in a group delivering custom service packages to AT&T's largest customers. As you might imagine, we had plenty of legal interaction. The rule we followed was attorneys advise, business managers decide. We did not let attorneys decide how we could interact with our stakeholders, customers, and regulators. And we also understood that attorneys provide very conservative, cover-your-ass advice. So my suggestion is that the board members learn how to deal with attorneys so that they can interact appropriately and professionally with stakeholders. This board has great power. Please use it responsibly. Thank you very much.
Amen.
Thank you. And the next public comment is coming from Bill Ritzler. Bill, your line is live, and your time will now begin.
Thank you and good morning. I'm calling today because I am the New Jersey coordinator for the Delaware Valley Association of Rail Passengers. As I have on several months previous in this year, I'd like to report on service interruption issues with the Atlantic City line. The outstanding issues for the month of May appear yet again to be openings associated with the Delaware Bridge, owned by Conrail, congestion-related issues, many of which are cascading delays resulting from the Delaware Bridge issues. And one positive note about the metrics is that in the month of May, there appear to have been 0 attributions to crew availability, which means that the increase in engineers appears to be doing its job. Building on that, I'd also like to add that we continue to support improvements to the Atlantic City rail line. We continue to support the Glassboro-Camden line. And we also continue to support the new bus BCG initiative, and we hope that that initiative moves forward with a priority on the passenger interest rather than zero revenue net considerations or criteria. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next public comment is coming from David Hughes. David, your line is live and your time will now begin.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, please go ahead.
Okay, very good. My name is David Hughes. I'm representing the Rutgers AAUP AFC Faculty and Grad Union at Rutgers University. We also belong to the Don't Gas the Meadowlands Coalition, and I'm speaking against any RFP that includes natural gas as an option for a power plant there on NJ Transit property and facilities. Let me start by reading a little quotation from Thomas Edison, who, as you know, is one of the inventors of electric power generation from about 100 years ago. He wrote, "Sunshine is a form of energy, and the winds and tides are forms of energy. Do we use them?" he asked. "Oh no, we burn up wood and coal as renters burn up the front fence for fuel. We live as squatters, not as if we owned the property." Now, he could very well have included natural gas along there with wood and coal. The point is that we have a free resource shining down upon the parking lots, the train stations, the yards, shining down upon quite a lot of acres accessible to you all, and you don't seem to want to use it. Instead, you seem to want to go to Pennsylvania and places further afield than that and go thousands of feet underground and fracture the earth and pollute the water table and tear this flammable gas, where it's been safely stored for millions of years, tear it up, and then pipe it through pipelines, through communities, under lakes, under rivers, under streams, through fragile riparian areas, through neighborhoods where it leaks and causes lung disease and asthma, and bring it to Newark, and then burn it in ways that, again, cause harm to communities, principally environmental justice communities in that area.
1 minute.
Fire up your trains. I don't know why you would want to do that, unless you really want to just keep a dead and dying industry going for another few years. So I ask you to do the sensible thing, which is to write an RFP that prioritizes the free, clean resource that keeps the world alive, that preserves the conditions for life on planet Earth and the conditions for life in Ironbound and other EJ communities, and write off natural gas as a wasteful and harmful byproduct of an age that science has long surpassed and that we should put to rest for the benefit of
15 seconds remaining.
I'm done.
Thank you. And the next public comment will come from Rachel Davis. Rachel, your line is live and your time will now begin.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Rachel.
Okay, my name is Rachel Dawn Davis. I'm the Public Policy and Justice Organizer for Water Spirit, a ministry of the Sisters of St. Joseph of Peace. I'd also like to direct my comments to the governor's representative, echoing comments of fellow public health advocates at the meeting today who've spoken. Water is the source and sustainer of all life. We are already experiencing wars over this diminishing life force. We all know this. Children know this. Energy resources that use considerably more water, such as oil and gas, have no place in our society and haven't for some time. We advocate for green job training to ensure that workers in an age-polluting industry are capable of having a vibrant future with economic security. Focusing on young people and their future, we can't help but notice and mention that they are not present. They are at school, well, they will be maybe learning about how government works, perhaps. Maybe about the changing water cycle. Perhaps how to actively protect their own lives and their friends' lives from gun violence. Violence rooted in environmental racism, perpetuated by obstacles to voting rights, still today. There is something terribly wrong. Monday, the environmental justice law rules were put out, and it is really time for Governor Murphy to lead on the environment beyond wind turbines and window dressing. The New Jersey Transit Microgrid project specifically was so close to being correct, and I have said this ad nauseum for over a year and a half. please relay to the governor to direct New Jersey Transit to amend the RFP so that young people in New Jersey can believe in leadership in their state and that this leadership understands the impact of inaction or perpetuating the status quo on a future that is resembling chaos and disaster. The methane gas projects, all 7 of them, if there are more, those 2 should be paused, stopped, and a moratorium on all fossil fuel projects be put in place. In the spirit of the environmental justice law, understand the sane economics of renewable energy, as was mentioned earlier. We get our energy from the sun. Costs are considerably coming down. Solar, 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 solar. Get your energy from the sun. Understand as you ruminate on decisions, the impact so many, that do impact so many. The social, political, and financial risks are mostly going to fall on the youngest voters in New Jersey. Where are you, Governor Murphy? I echo. Who are you? Are you leading on a post-peak oil future? Talk is expensive, not cheap. We, the young families and young people in New Jersey, need leadership who walk the walk, not just talk the talk. Thank you for this opportunity, and we remain available with wide open arms to speak and move forward into a renewable energy present. Thank you.
Thank you. And there are 4 public comments left in queue. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to enter the queue to make a public comment, you may still do so by pressing star 1 on your telephone keypad. The next public comment will come from Tim Sevener. Tim, your line is live and your time will now begin. Tim, your line is live. You may begin your public comment at this time. Tim, please check your mute button. Your time is now begin. We seem to have a problem with Tim's line there. Tim, please rejoin queue by pressing star 1 if you wish to continue to make a public comment. In the meantime, we'll move on to Adam Reich. Adam, your line is live and your time will now begin.
Good morning. First of all, just a couple quick housekeeping items. Any update on the customer advocate selection process? And with that, the customer advisory board, if we don't have a customer advocate in place by, say, September, can we at least commit to having a meeting between staff and the customer advisory board? Also, last month, Suzanne Knapp expressed a willingness to speak with me about the advisory committee and some of what I had been raising recently. I haven't heard from them, so if somebody can forward me an appropriate contact, I guess the board secretary offline, that would be appreciated. On the mask card issue remains a big concern of mine, as I'm sure many of you know. And I do want to express my appreciation for board members supporting and pushing staff to actively consider the idea of at least a pilot program. I would ask that we at least consider an optional model where we follow the quiet car model, place signage, make regular announcements, and see if that'll work on the trains that regularly operate with closed cars. Importantly, on the max card issue, I think staff have miscast the equity considerations. With equity principles, you provide a reasonable accommodation where you can do so, and where you can't, where it's an undue burden, an institution like New Jersey Transit is not expected to do so. You do not deny a reasonable accommodation just because you can't provide that everywhere. Mr. Corbett and his team have been saying, because we can't provide an equivalent option on buses or light rail, we can't equitably do it on trains. That is completely casting equity in the wrong light. It would be like saying, because we do not have high-level platforms at every train station, that we cannot provide level boarding to customers who need a wheelchair or require level boarding. It's simply not how we do things. We provide the accommodation, we use the high-level platforms we can. Again, we have a quiet car model for this. We have trains that have the capacity. Let's at least try this, even if it's not an enforced model. An 80% max car is better than the 50% we currently see. Reach out to Washington Metro since they've expressed interest in the idea. If you haven't already done so, if staff still have reservations, let's at least have a dialogue. I think the vague statements from staff and I think the inaccurate portrayal of this does at least warrant a sit down so we can try to work through these issues and figure out problems, or at least get meaningful explanations from staff on why they have steadfastly refused to try even a pilot program to this point.
15 seconds.
Again, do want to thank the board members who have supported this, and please ask you to push staff on this to at least try a pilot program and to more meaningfully engage riders. We have quiet cars on trains, even though we don't have them on buses or light rail. Let's try this, particularly as community activity levels are high. Let's also improve the messaging on masking. Let's at least encourage riders, as transit agencies like Washington Metro do, to wear masks, even if we are not mandating it. Again, high community transmission levels warrant at least a change in messaging, and certainly warrant the consideration of a pilot program to protect public health and safety, especially during National Safety Month. Thank you again, board members, for your support, your diligence, and your responsiveness. I do appreciate the work you are doing. I just ask for more from staff. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next public comment is coming from Tim Savener. Tim, your line is live, and your time will now begin.
Hello, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, please go ahead.
Yes. Okay, yes, Tim Savener from the New Jersey Association of Rail Passengers. And I would just like to point out another aspect of using natural gas. The natural gas prices have doubled. The price of solar has not. As David Hughes pointed out, solar, once it's installed, is pretty much free. And the International Energy Agency projects that gas prices are going to continue to go up. And Wall Street, which invested about $1 trillion in oil and gas to get it, is now reluctant to go back into it because they took a bath when demand fell. And there's only so much oil and gas anyway, whereas the sun is going to keep shining. So we really should be using solar as much as possible. And as Ken pointed out, there's plenty of solar acreage possible to do it, and also possible agreements with properties close to the rail line, and especially the over the train itself, solar tunnels, as I pointed out, which would be an innovative solution, but it makes a lot of sense. They're doing it in Belgium. The other thing is electric rail, because diesel prices are now the highest ever. So this is another economic reason that we should be electrifying the rail. As DDARP representative said, Atlantic City has
1 minute remaining.
Horrible service. There's no reason the Atlantic City line, there should be a plan to electrify that with the wind from the offshore wind, which would improve their service, reduce their pollution, and with no emissions. Another point that NJARP has been pointing out, as far as widening Route 78 to Jersey City, Moorestown lines had 20% cut in Hoboken service, which has been serious. That needs to be restored. And also, we need to get rails with trails, like the Essex-Hudson trail should have a light rail going down the middle of it with bike trails alongside of it. It's totally possible to do that. We do that on the Moorestown line, as Kevin knows, because he goes by Common Station every day if he's coming from Moorestown. And as much as possible, and make this electric rail, electrify the gaps that we already have, some small gaps, like from MSU to Denville over to Hackettstown, begin electrifying the Raritan line. And then that can be powered by renewable as we propose for the New Jersey Transit Grid.
Thank you. And the next public comment will come from William McLennan. William, your line is live and your time will now begin.
Yes, hi, my name is William McClellan. I'm a volunteer with Food and Water Watch and a member of the Don't Gas the Meadowlands Coalition. I'm just calling, once again, to call on New Jersey Transit to address the critical issues by amending the RFP for the New Jersey Transit microgrid project so that the project design will not include a gas or dirty energy power plant and will prioritize renewable energy. We're also calling on New Jersey Transit to respond to these concerns that were raised by members of the public at the February and March board meetings and today, and the Environmental and Sustainability Subcommittee meetings. We have not received a sufficient response to any of these concerns. I'm also going to ask the following questions. I realize you are not somehow unable to speak to us at these meetings, but I would appreciate your writing these responses to these questions on your website or in some other form. Here are the questions. Will you, the Board of Commissioners, direct New Jersey Transit to withdraw the RFP and provide a new one that focuses on creating a hybrid renewable energy microgrid that was promised to the people of New Jersey by you and Governor Murphy? Second question, will you, the Board of Commissioners, call for an investigation of why the RFP deceived both Governor Murphy and the New Jersey Transit Board of Commissioners by pivoting back to a gas plant? Will you call for the removal of the company that was hired specifically to direct and support the microgrid project? Question 3. Will you, the Board of Commissioners, call for the removal of New Jersey Transit staff from the microgrid project if they were responsible for steering the RFP back to the gas plant? And finally, during your comments after the public comment section, will each Board of Commissioners member state your commitment to a renewable energy microgrid, not a gas power plant located in the floodplains in Kearney, a plant that would pollute Kearney and neighboring environmental justice communities? In short, will you please do your job? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And the next public comment is coming from Erica Gould. Erica, your line is live and your time will now begin.
Good morning. I'm commenting today in support of the proposed mask car, one car in each train in which everyone is asked to wear a face mask. This is critical for me and other high-risk individuals and those who live with people who are high-risk to be able to ride the train safely. At the beginning of this meeting, Mr. Corbett spoke about National Safety Month and upcoming accessibility initiatives. The mask car should be part of those things. Now is the perfect time to launch a pilot program. Being in an environment of masked individuals meaningfully reduce the chance of COVID-19 transmission is indeed a matter of safety and accessibility. I've stated this at other meetings, and I want to repeat that most face masks are designed to protect other people from the mask wearer, not the other way around. That is why it's not enough for a vulnerable rider to just wear their own mask in a group of unmasked individuals. As far as the issue of enforcement, at the last Operations and Customer Service Committee meeting, after I and other commenters noted that we would be willing to forgo active enforcement of the mask car by train crews, Board Member Nara stated she would see if the agency could work something out and that she wouldn't expect the staff to enforce the mask car. Has that been discussed with NJ Transit leadership by now? What is the status? I want to emphasize that the mask car would be self-selecting, meaning the passengers who choose to sit there will by and large want to be wearing a mask on the train. If a few people disobey the rules, the high concentration of fully masked riders would still significantly reduce the risk to vulnerable riders. Thank you.
Thank you. And there is one more public comment in queue at this time. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to enter the queue to make a public comment, you may do so by pressing star 1 on your phone. And the next public comment is coming from Matthew Smith. Matthew, your line is live and your time will now begin.
Good morning, members of the New Jersey Transit Board. My name is Matt Smith. I'm the New Jersey Director for Food and Water Watch. And I'm commenting today on behalf of our 70,000 plus members and supporters across the state. We call for New Jersey Transit to amend the RFP for the Transit Grid project to incorporate feedback that New Jersey Transit has received consistently since the original issuance of the RFP for the Transit Grid project. Just this week, New Jersey made history by publishing the rules and a mapping tool for one of the leading environmental justice laws in the country. At the signing of that law, Governor Murphy said that we can no longer allow for the right to clean water, clean air, and a healthy environment be determined by people's skin color, by people's zip code, or by their income. And here we are after several years of work, and the RFP as issued by New Jersey Transit leaves the door wide open for a major gas plant that would pollute the air and lungs for millions of people in Kearney and the surrounding region. This is unacceptable. New Jersey Transit to date has not even looked at non-generational alternatives to give it the resiliency that it needs. PSE&G is set to spend and has already been spending hundreds of millions, and in total will spend $2 billion to harden the grid to future extreme weather events. Where in New Jersey Transit's analysis does it even
1 minute remaining
the ability to build grid hardening to avoid future power outages to New Jersey Transit's rail lines and other infrastructure? In the New York metropolitan area, the area surrounding the Kearney gas plant, there are 19 million people. 8 million people die each year from pollution attributed to fossil fuels. If we look at the math, that's 0.001% of global population. If we apply that to the New York City metro area, where this project will, if the gas plant is allowed, which the RFP would allow for,
15 seconds remain.
the lungs and be attributable to the death of over 19,000 people who live in that area. New Jersey Transit must fulfill its commitment to incorporate stakeholder feedback and pursue a renewable energy alternative, and they must amend the RFP to do so. We look forward to engaging in a dialogue. We look forward to hearing from New Jersey Transit about the amendment process so we can get to the real work of eliminating any possibility of a new polluting toxic gas plant as part of the Transit Grid project. Thank you.
Thank you. And there were no other public comments in queue at this time.
Are there any board member comments?
That was our last. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Chair, I just wanted to address Sally Jane Gellert had an issue during last month's board meeting that I just wanted to address briefly, if I may.
This was specifically with regards to departure vision. And when she'd spoken, I think I made a comment about asking staff to look into it, and they did. So I just want to give Ms. Gellert some reply. I'm going to summarize this, but the bottom line is that with the current technology, there have been some glitches with getting particular information up on the departure vision system. And the IT department's working on a technology solution that'll automate the information delivery when there are cancellations, so that the most updated information can be provided to customers. So they're actively looking at that, and they're trying to also develop. There's a manual component to this if the system isn't working, but that is very complicated, and so staff and is working to sort of optimize both systems, and in the meantime, they're asking passengers to follow their individual rail line on Twitter and customize their individual push notifications on the mobile app, or sign up for My Transit alerts. And I understand Ms. Gellert's point that there's, Departure Vision is advertised to provide certain services, but there have been some slight glitches, and staff is really working hard to ameliorate that. So I hope that answer will satisfy her, and certainly if once the solutions are provided, I think that'll be provided to the public. So that's all, Chair. Thank you.
Any other board members have any comments they wish to offer? Hearing none, we'll move on. At this time, I'll call upon Anna Marie Ganella Rosado to present the advisory committee report.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, board members, and staff. The North and South PACs provided letters of support to the New Jersey, to the U.S. Department of Transportation and Federal Transportation for New Jersey grant applications for a total of 7 grant submissions. They are FY 2022 funds for mega grants, including Job Order Contract, Jersey City Transportation and Access Initiative, low or no emissions grant programs for hybrid bus acquisition, low or no emission grant programs, and buses and bus facilities competitive grants for New Jersey Transit Meadowlands Bus Garage Modernization Project, buses and bus facilities competitive program for New Jersey Transit Union City Garage Reconstruction Electric Ready Project, low or no emissions grant project for Greenville Bus Garage Solar Canopy Electrification System Project, and lastly, low or no emissions grant for the Hilton Bus Garage Roof Replacement Solar and Electrification Ready Project. Transit launched 2 new technology-focused initiatives to assist those with mobility challenges. Through a partnership with Mega Cards, a free mobile app is available to assist autistic and neurodiverse customers navigate the system. Transit also revamped its accessibility-related website with new videos and easy-to-use links. The new videos cover topics such as overview about the many services and features of New Jersey Transit that make it accessible, vehicle and station accessible, features of reduced fare program, community service, and access link. The National Safety Council has designated June as National Safety Month with the theme of Alert Today, Alive Tomorrow. Transit launched its own educational campaign for customers and employees, offering tips and reminders throughout the month to enforce safety on or near transit systems. New Jersey Transit begun its summer discount program with the Your Ride to Summer Vibes. Using various promotional codes in the Transit mobile app, customers can save on beach packages, express bus service to Six Flags, rail service to Monmouth Park Racetrack, and buy one, get one free to bring a friend. Round-trip rides to New York City and Philadelphia are also discounted. Customers can also travel from Philadelphia to Atlantic City on a round-trip ticket on Atlantic City Rail Line for just $10 on weekdays. During June 4th and 5th, Transit offered a 25% discount to Coldplay concerts at MetLife Stadium to help advance the band's eco-friendly, sustainable efforts. Lastly, the committee's next virtual meeting will be this Friday, June the 10th. That concludes my report, Madam Chair. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you, Anna Marie. We'll move now to board committee reports, and I'll call upon Board Member Johnson to present the Operations and Customer Service Committee report.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. The Operations and Customer Service Committee received an update on trends, analysis, and actions for rail, bus, light rail, and access link. The committee also received an update on the cost of service. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. I will now call on Board Member Morocco to present the Administration Committee report.
Thank you, Chair. The Administration Committee received a financial update that included a summary of operating results compared to previous year's comparable period and fiscal year 22 budget, 12-month farebox revenue compared to pre-COVID, major balance sheet items, and federal COVID-19 relief grant drawdown summary. Additional information was provided as part of the agenda materials, including the cost of service key performance indicators, 12-month farebox recovery, history of vacancies, attrition, and hires, ridership and revenue, and a monthly budget to actual comparison for July 2021 to April 2022. The committee also received updates from Human Resources and Equal Employment Opportunity and Affirmative Action. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Board Member Morocco. I'll now call on Vice Chair Fulton to present the Capital Planning, Policy, and Privatization Committee report.
Thank you, Chair. The Capital Planning, Policy, and Privatization Committee discussed the board items for the fiscal year 2023 sole, single, and limited qualified source procurement by exception authorization, information technology award of contract for ransomware protection to SHI International Corporation, and professional services contract, New Jersey Transit State of Good Repair Staff Augmentation Phase 2. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Vice Chair Fulton, and now I'll just ask you to present the Energy and Sustainability Policy Committee report.
The Energy and Sustainability Policy Committee discussed updates to the microgrid central facility procurement. The committee also received a briefing from Senior Vice President of Capital Programs Eric DeLeo and his staff regarding New Jersey Transit Sustainability Plan and a Zero Emissions Bus Program. That concludes my report.
Thank you. At this time, I will call upon CEO Corbett to begin the presentation of the action items.
Great, thank you, Chair. I'd like to begin with introducing Ron Hovey, Acting Chief Procurement Officer, to present Board Item 2206-40 regarding sole source procurements. Ron?
Thank you, Kevin. We're presenting for approval item number 2206-40.
Fiscal year 2023 sole, single, and limited qualified source procurement by exception authorization. Authorization is requested to enter into procurement by exception contracts for the purchase of materials and services from approved vendors set forth in Exhibit A1, subject to adjustments, to support bus, rail, light rail, headquarters operations at a cost not to exceed $30 million, including MCI spares and replacement parts, plus 5% for contingencies on the non-MCI parts, to account for increase in ordering quantities and changing market conditions, all subject to the availability of funds. New firms with material or services whose aggregate value exceeds $250,000 within the fiscal year will be submitted to the board. This request will cover a 12-month period from July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. Authorization is also requested to enter into procurement by exception contracts for the purpose of maintaining and upgrading software and hardware systems from approved vendors set forth in Exhibit A2, subject to adjustments, to support New Jersey Transit's information systems at a total cost not to exceed $26,181,754, subject to the availability of funds. New firms with services whose aggregate value exceeds $250,000 within the fiscal year will be submitted to the board. This request will cover a 12-month period from July 1, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. Authorization is also requested to enter into procurement by exception contracts for the purchase of materials and services from approved vendors set forth in Exhibit A3, subject to adjustments, to support New Jersey Transit infrastructure at a cost not to exceed $8,482,000, subject to the availability of funds. Federal Transit Administration approval and all other applicable requirements. New firms with services whose aggregate value exceeds $250,000 within the fiscal year will also be submitted to the board. This request will cover a 12-month period from July 1, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. We ask for your approval of item number 2206-40. Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve item 2206-40?
Motion, Nara.
May I have a second?
Second, Kane.
Any discussion amongst board members? Vice Chair.
But yes, thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Ron. During the briefing, we talked a bit about the measures that you're going to put in place to take a look at strategies and techniques to be able to first quantify the need and then come up with solutions, if you can, to reduce the number of procurements by exception.
Correct.
We speak to this issue every year, and of course it's one of the utmost importance whenever you're buying with reduced competition. And I thought that the strategies that you put in place were progressive. Some of the best that I've heard about. And so consequently, what I've asked you to do is to, before it's time for us to do this again next year, to report back to us on how those strategies are going so that we can have a sense of what progress we're making in an area where, to the extent possible, we can reduce from procurements by exception. So I'm looking forward to the interim report prior to when we have to make this decision this time next year. Thank you. That concludes my comments.
Are there comments from any other members of the board? So I'm going to echo Vice Chair Fulton's comments. This is one of the most difficult board items that I see every year, and it has nothing to do with you, Ron. It just has to do with the number of procurements that happen to fall under these categories. And I do appreciate the efforts of both Vice Chair Fulton and his wisdom and your efforts to continue to bring this number down, but also to constrain it in terms of dollar values before you bring it back to the board. For me, it is a major issue with transparency. And so I just want to add to Cedric's comments. Very grateful for you continuing to look at that, continuing to tighten it up. We'll again look forward next year to hoping the list gets smaller, which is always the goal. So thank you for those efforts. I appreciate it. And so with that, we will move to a vote.
Before we take the vote, I just wanted to note for the record that Board Member Gordon had to leave for a BTU meeting and a return afterwards. Roll call vote. Board Member Doshi?
Yes, thank you.
Board Member Morocco?
Yes.
Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Keenan?
Yes.
Board Member Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Fulton?
Yes.
Chair Gutierrez-Fichetti?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. I'd now like to introduce Eric DeLeo, Senior Vice President of Capital Programs, to present Board Item 2206-41, regarding state of good repair.
Thank you, President Corbett. We are presenting for approval item 2206-41, professional services contract, NJ Transit State of Good Repair, staff augmentation, Phase 2. Authorization is requested to enter into Phase 2 of a contract with Urban Engineers Incorporated of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania for professional services assistance in an amount not to exceed $7,681,640 plus 5% contingencies subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of item 2206-41.
May I have a motion to approve?
Motion, Baroka.
May I have a second?
Second, Nara.
Any discussion on this motion?
By me again. So again, these types of procurement, and we had this conversation, are unique because the obvious question that we ask is whether or not this work can be done by in-house staff and whether or not it would be better accomplished if we would bring in-house staff on permanently. We understand the marketplace challenges that exist today, particularly in these disciplines. But similarly, I would ask you to continue to pursue looking for opportunities where possible. And where cost attainable to be able to bring folks on board for this important work in critical areas where possible. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Hearing none, Megan, would you take roll call?
Roll call vote. Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Morocco?
Yes.
Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Keenan?
Yes.
Board Member Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Fulton?
Yes.
Chair Gutierrez Scacchetti?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Megan. Now I'd like to continue on and present Board Item 2206-42 regarding the Portal North Bridge project. Eric?
Thank you, President Corbett. We are presenting for approval item 2206-42, NJ Transit Portal North Bridge Project, Parcel 118, Metal Green Recycling Self-Move Agreement and Relocation. Authorization is requested to take any and all actions to enter into a relocation agreement with Metal Green Recycling Industries Incorporated and provide relocation benefits to Metal Green Recycling Industries Incorporated in accordance with the Federal Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Policies Act and the New Jersey Uniform Transportation Housing Replacement and Relocation Act, not to exceed an amount discussed in executive session and subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of item 2206-42.
May I have a motion to approve?
Motion, Morocco.
May I have a second?
Second, Kane.
Any discussion amongst the board on this item? Hearing none, Megan, will you please take a roll call vote?
Roll call vote. Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Morocco?
Yes.
Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Keenan?
Yes.
Board Member Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Fulton?
Yes.
Chair Gutierrez Scacchetti?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Great, thank you. I'd now like to introduce Bill Vaccaro, Senior Vice President, Chief Financial Officer and Treasurer, to present Board Item 2206-43 regarding software technology. Bill?
Thank you, President Corbett. We are presenting for approval item 2206-43, Information Technology Award of Contract for Ransomware Protection to SHI International Corporation. Authorization is requested to renew Rubric software licenses for ransomware protection with SHI International Corporation of Somerset, New Jersey, for a 3-year term in an amount not to exceed $1,819,695.21, plus 5% for contingencies, subject to availability of funds. We ask your approval of item 2206-43.
May I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second, Norris.
Any discussion amongst the board on this item? Hearing none, Megan, please take roll.
Roll call vote. Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Morocco?
Yes.
Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Keenan?
Yes.
Board Member Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Fulton?
Yes.
Chair Gutierrez Scacchetti?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Good, thank you. Now I ask Bill to continue with Board Item 2206-44 regarding the corporate insurance program.
Thank you, President Corbett. We are presenting for approval item 2206-44, Corporate Insurance Program Annual Renewal. Authorization to revise and renew the corporate insurance program and to include services necessary to administer the program for the period July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023, at an annual cost not to exceed an amount discussed in executive session, plus 5% for contingencies, subject to availability of funds, and adoption of the fiscal year 2023 operating budget. We ask for approval of item 2206-44.
May I have a motion to approve?
Motion, Morocco.
May I have a second?
Second, Fulton.
Is there any discussion amongst the board on this item? Hearing none, Megan, please take roll call vote.
Roll call vote. Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Morocco?
Yes.
Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Keenan?
Yes.
Board Member Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Fulton?
Yes.
Chair Gutierrez Scacchetti?
Yes.
Motion carried. We have board members recused on the next item. Board members Brown and Thomas are recused and will leave the room.
I'll now ask Bill to present the last action item for today, item 2206-45, regarding personal injury claim. Bill?
Thank you, President Corbett. We are presenting for approval item 2206-45, personal injury claim of Isabel Campanella. Authorization is requested to settle the claim of Isabel Campanella through her attorney at an amount discussed in executive session. The Attorney General has approved the proposed settlement subject to availability of funds. We ask your approval of item 2206-45.
May I have a motion to approve?
Motion, Nara.
May I have a second?
Second, Canove.
Is there any discussion on the motion amongst the board? Hearing none, Megan, please take roll call vote.
Roll call vote. Board Member Doshi? Roll call vote?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Board Member Morocco?
Yes.
Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Kena?
Yes.
Board Member Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Fulton?
Yes.
Chair Gutierrez-Skichet?
Yes.
Motion carried. We will have Board Members Brown and Thomas return to the meetings. We will continue without them.
Okay. Before we adjourn to executive session, I want to let the public know we will return to adjourn the meeting only. No further business will be conducted. May I have a motion to enter into executive session to discuss personnel matters, contract negotiations, the status of pending and anticipated litigation, and matters falling within the attorney-client privilege, including but not limited to the grade crossing license agreement, Standard Street Alpha Property LLC, lease of warehouse space for use by New Jersey Transit operating departments, and the New Jersey Transit Resilience Program Raritan River Bridge Replacement Project General Construction Contract Amendment. May I have a motion to enter into executive session?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second, Nara.
Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, Megan, please take roll call vote.
Roll call vote. Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Morocco?
Yes.
Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Keenan?
Yes.
Board Member Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Fulton?
Yes.
Chair Gutierrez-Skichet?
Yes.
Motion carried.
officially met. We sort of met over Zoom.
Everybody met over Zoom.
Can you draw a short straw today?
Oh, I wouldn't consider it that. I know where Noreen is, so.
It's all relative, right?
Yes.
In the scheme of things, yes, absolutely. All right. I hereby reconvene the open session board meetings. Megan, would you please take roll?
Roll call. Board Member Brown is absent. Board Member Doshi? Here. Board Member Gordon? Here. Board Member Morocco?
Here.
Board Member Nara?
Here.
Board Member Kaniff?
Here.
Board Member Johnson?
Here.
Vice Chair Fulton?
Here.
Chair Gutierrez-Gutierrez.
Here. And just for the record, for both Board Member Thomas and Board Member Brown, because the last 3 items of executive session, they were recused from participating in, and we told them not to stay for the simple matter of adjourning. That was a conscious decision on our part, out of courtesy. So since there is no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries, meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much. Look at us.
Hey, this is great, man. You're gonna be sticking around. I'm gonna stay. Is that a sandwich I saw here? Yes. It's gonna take a couple. Cover a lot of ground. They just